to just quickly Google Tableau Public, Sara, Seylani. It's, I think, the second result in Google. The first one's her LinkedIn. And just click Women in Data Workbook, and then there's some instructions on that workbook for how to download Tableau Public. And if you get started on that now, then you won't be waiting when we actually start the session, because I appreciate everyone's on slow Wi-Fi at home at the moment. But with that, let me go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to Data Plus Women London's May meetup. Now that we're all virtual, I guess it's not really worth mentioning that we're specifically in London, as I'm sure we've got attendees from all over. I know in the last meetup we had some people from Germany, but also New York joining us. So Data Plus Women is now completely a global group. Very quickly, a couple of agenda points. I'm Archana Ganeshalingam. I'm one of the co-leads for Data Plus Women, so I'll be leading the session today, kind of hosting and emceeing it. Then I'll be handing over in a couple of minutes to Sara. You can see there while we were testing all the audio and stuff. We have a better picture of her coming up, but this is my favorite one of her. She's going to be leading the session. It should last about an hour, but we've got a buffer until 7:30, just in case we need to run over. But if we have that time, then feel free to use it for questions as well. Just a couple of notes on the WebEx. That's the reason why I've included that screenshot there, is for any general chat, please use the chat window. And then for questions, as you're following along with the Q&A, use the Q&A box instead, because that way we can make sure that someone's answering your question, as well as assign you to a breakout room if you need kind of one-on-one help if you fall a little bit behind. I think that was it from me from WebEx side of things. I'm going to jump to the next slide. So for those of you who are new to our community, welcome, first of all. We're excited to have you and to hope to see you at future events, whether they continue to be virtual or for when we're back in person as well. Just a quick brief on what Data Plus Women actually is, because I know lots of people find out about these events through different ways. Data Plus Women is a community and meetup group for women who work in, with, and around data. And our aim is to promote and celebrate the achievements and successes of women working in the industry, as well as give them a platform to share their knowledge and experiences. And this definition of our mission means that absolutely everyone is welcome. So we usually have men when we're presenting in person and also joining our virtual sessions. The only requirement is that the speaker each month, I should say, is a woman. So with that, I want to introduce you to the rest of the gang. These are the other co-leaders for Data Plus Women. So rather than kind of doing the typical round of introductions, I wanted to do something a little bit different today. So I've been listening to the podcast Unhappy Hour recently, and they end every episode by asking you, what's your chaser this week? And so a chaser is like the good thing that makes all the bad stuff go down a little easier. And I think we all need a little bit more of that when we're all in quarantine and at home and with the stress of the news and that kind of thing. So that's my question to our leaders this week. So we'll just go in order of the pictures. So I'm just going to make sure Evie is off mute.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, we can hear you. So what's your chaser this week?
Hello. My chaser this week is playing Animal Crossing, and my mom's sending me baby photos.
That's so cute. You have to share some of the baby photos so that we can include them in the newsletter after. Caroline, you're up.
Okay, so my chaser this week, I was just telling everyone before all you lovely people joined that I managed to find it found me, a stray cat at the front of my apartment, and not to be dramatic, but he kind of came inside and it kind of was the best day in a long time. Turns out it belongs to our neighbor, so we have given him back, obviously. But yes, big ups if anyone's a cat lover out there.
A shared ownership kind of thing.
I would really, really be invested in that.
Provided cats don't carry COVID, I guess.
I did.
Be careful of that. Ellie, you're up.
Hey. So mine's not quite as fun or as exciting as a cat, but I finally caught up with Killing Eve, and without any spoilers, it's been fun binging on it. But now I'm at the frustrating part of having to wait for the new episode each week. So I'm excited to see what happens next, given that it was a big cliffhanger at the last one.
Yeah, I know when you told me that, I was like, we have to talk about it without giving any spoilers away for everyone
Hard
else.
to.
Yeah, we'll just say watch Killing Eve and leave
Yes,
it at
yes,
that.
definitely do.
Sara!
Yes, and I still need to watch the last season of Killing Eve, so I'm very excited. But my chaser is a podcast called Home Cooking. That's done by the author of Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, Samin Nosrat. It's a mini-series, and I have the 4th and last episode to listen to, and I love it. I recommend everybody to listen to it.
Nice. Is it helping you cook at home at the moment?
A little bit, and also, I don't know, it's just so lovely to hear people who are passionate about food talking about food. And she's wonderful. She's so warm. It's really nice to listen to her and what she's going through at the moment. So yes, she's going through a lot of struggles baking bread, and so am I.
Nice. And then last but not least is Tuba.
Hey everyone, mine is coming from my family actually, because my brother-in-law had COVID, unfortunately, for a while, but finally he's at a hospital and his tests came back negative this week, so yay! So yeah, good.
Glad. This is very good news.
Yeah.
And then my one, I had a couple, but I'm going to pick one that I've been kind of using more recently, is Dua Lipa's new album, Future Nostalgia. I've been listening to that a lot while working from home. And then recently I saw on Twitter a BBC News remix of one of the songs from the album. So I'm going to put a link to that one in the newsletter just because I feel like it's very in the spirit, because we're all watching the news right now. So it's nice to have a remix of the BBC News theme tune to listen to. So that's everyone's chasers. I encourage all of you guys in the chat, just to keep the conversation going while we're going through some of the slides, is to drop your suggestions. If anything's been keeping you going while you're working from home, I want to hear about it. Yeah, we all need a little bit of perking up right now. Let me jump to the next slide. So we had a couple of more people join in since we started. So before getting to all of the announcements we have this month, I just want to put this slide on hold for anyone who missed it at the beginning. This session will be hands-on, so you'll need these resources to join in. And if you haven't already, all it means is just search Sara's name and Tableau Public, and then you'll see that workbook, and there's steps in that workbook for how to go about downloading it so that you can follow along. So last chance to do that while I quickly go through a couple of quick announcements from the team, as I am conscious of time. We listened to your feedback in the last session. Everyone said that they're more active on LinkedIn rather than Twitter. So Ellie has kindly created a LinkedIn group for us. This LinkedIn group actually represents all the Data Plus Women chapters globally. So it's also a chance to connect with like-minded women around the world and not just in London or the UK. We've also added a code of conduct there, so please make sure to have a read of that. It's on the About This Group section to the left-hand side. The reason why I mention it is just the main thing to keep in mind is to use hashtags like job ad or project help at the beginning of a post so that everyone else knows what it is you're looking for. And it's looking a little bit sparse at the moment, so we're looking forward to seeing all of your posts and contributions to that community. So again, all of the stuff I mentioned right now is going to be included in our newsletter email afterwards, so don't worry about having to search for this right now. We've also made the decision to retire our Meetup page, so some of you guys might have found the group through that, meetup.com. Because we've created the LinkedIn group and also because we're migrating as an event platform to Splash, this event, for example, was only advertised on Splash and not on Meetup, and at some point we want to migrate all of our users across, so please make sure to register at this link for any future updates. And then last one is we're always looking for more speakers, and especially now that we've pivoted to more virtual events. We're not limited by your location. Wherever you live in the UK now, you're kind of welcome to present. And also the time of day, because we can do, you know, a lunchtime session or a coffee break type of session or something in the evening as well. So again, if it's something you're interested in, we've done all sorts of sessions at the moment. No idea is, you know, not welcome. So go ahead and just submit, and then we'll kind of review the submissions and see where they fit in our calendar, since we try to do an event about once a month. Cool, so now on to the reason we're all here today, an introduction to Tableau Public. So if you don't know, Tableau Public is Tableau's free product that's available to everyone. And we like to call it the YouTube of data visualization, as it's intended for publicly facing data. So it's often used for data journalism as well as data storytelling. Maybe after the session, just head to public.tableau.com to see the Viz gallery for yourself. There's a Viz about absolutely everything. Obviously, right now, a lot of them tend to be about COVID, but also I saw one actually today. Evie might be interested in this one because it's about Animal Crossing and the flower reading. I don't play the game, so I don't know what I'm talking about, but there's one about that you might want to have a look at. But yeah, whatever your interest is, whether it's you're missing sport right now, there's loads of sports ones as well and that kind of thing. So make sure to have a gander over at Tableau Public as well. But with that, it's my pleasure to introduce your speaker today, who's my teammate, Sara Seylani. Sara is a solutions engineer who joined Tableau 9 months ago after graduating from UCL in management science. She's actually presented this session before at the Women in Data conference last year. So I'm delighted to have her with us again today to share that presentation, albeit virtually. Outside of Tableau, Sara is my reality TV watching buddy. So when we're in the office, you can usually find us ranting about last night's episode of Love Island, which we don't have anymore, obviously. So more recently, our topic of discussion has been Too Hot to Handle on Netflix, if anyone's been watching that. Again, use the chat to rant about how terrible a TV show that was, even compared to Love Island. And I asked the leaders this question, so same one for you before we jump into the content, is what's your chaser this week, Sara?
My chaser this week has been RuPaul's Drag Race and also making random quiz sessions. I really love coming up with unusual quiz sessions which get people really excited. So
is that for virtual pub quizzes?
I know. It's all the virtual pub quizzes. I steal my friends' ideas and then send it over to my other friends as though it's my idea. But yeah, it's doing.
Nice one. You'll have to send me a quiz question to include in our follow-up email.
I know. I think last time I did embarrassing stories quiz round, so everyone sent me their embarrassing story and we had to guess whose story was whose.
Ah, that's a good idea.
Anyone wants a quiz round, that's a good one to use. But yeah, anyway, I will begin with the virtual session just because I know we are all geared up for that rather than hearing me drone on about pub quizzes that don't even exist anymore. So thank you again for coming to the Women in Data workshop. And if you do have any questions or you get stuck along the way, then just please send a message in the Q&A or chat box and we can get you some one-on-one support so that you don't get left behind. But today we're going to be talking about gender pay gap data. So when we're looking at gender pay gap data, I really want to show you what that data actually looks like before we get started and before I even show you the Tableau interface. So if I click View Data, what we'll be able to see is a massive table of gender pay gap data from the UK. Now in the UK, if you are a company of over 250 employees, by law, you have to report this data to the government, and this is all accounted for in this data set of, I think it's 2019. Yeah, this is the data. So this is 2019's data, and we can see we get fields of the current name of the employer, we get the employer size, where they're based in terms of postcode, and a few other fields like percent difference, which will just display how much more they're paying men or how much more they're paying women. So there's a few different fields there. And it's actually really interesting data to see, have we come so far, or are we kind of knocking at a dead door right now? So hopefully by the end of today's session, you'll be able to answer that for your own company. So now we're in the Tableau interface, and hopefully you guys all have Tableau loaded up and ready to go so you can follow me along for this session. But within the interface, we can see a few different elements. So once you open up Tableau, you'll be shown this, you may be shown a data source pane. If you are, just click into sheet 1 and you'll be shown something that looks a bit like this. So on the left-hand side here, we can see our dimensions and also our measures. So dimensions are on the left-hand side here, measures are on the measures are below that. Now your Tableau may look a little different because we have just undergone a new update, so you may just see your dimensions and measures under one single table. So just be aware of that. Now, what are dimensions and measures? Well, a dimension tends to be a categorical value, so it's something that tends to be discrete, like employer size or employer name, whereas a measure is our numerical fields, so these are things like the percent differences or quartiles, anything like that. And they will be displayed on the left-hand side. So you may have a few different fields to me, and that's just because I have a richer source of data. We've kind of simplified your data source down so that you're only looking at the fields that you're going to be using. So don't worry too much if you see a few different fields on my version that you don't see on your version. But as we go along, you should see everything clearer. The next thing we have is our columns and rows, and this is actually where we drop our fields. So we can drop our current name, for example, on columns, or we can drop one of our measures on rows. This is where we build views. Equally, we can do the exact same thing by dropping fields onto the actual worksheet here. So you'll see a few options to drop fields. So Tableau will just automatically build visualizations out for you as you build out these fields. The final thing that I kind of want to touch on is the marks card. So the marks card is this little box here, and there's a few different options within this marks card. So we have color, we have size, text, detail, and tooltip. And we can actually drop different fields onto each of these little cards. And by doing that, we get different results. So if we drop a field onto color, we alter the color of our visualization based on that field. The same can be said for size, text, detail, and tooltip. So these will become more clear as we start building out visualizations, and hopefully everything will be a bit easier to understand as we go on. The very final thing to just bear in mind, I may refer to Show Me in this demonstration, and Show Me is just a little area where you can actually which you can actually use to build out visualizations, and it will tell you what you need to build out those visualizations. So once you select a few measures, you can just click on one of the visualizations you like, and Tableau will build that out for you without you having to try and work out what you need to do. So this is a really good tool when you're a new starter in Tableau, because it will really enable you to get started and find it a lot easier to build out those visualizations to begin with. So the aim of this presentation, this demonstration today, is to get you a little, to get you clearer with Tableau. So you may not build something that looks like this, but we will be building a dashboard by the end of this presentation. Now this may look a little overwhelming, but I promise you, as we go through, things will be a lot simpler and we'll be able to create something like this. Now this is a dashboard that you can actually access on my Tableau public, so you can actually filter down based on different outcodes or different employer sizes, whatever you prefer. So I would definitely encourage you guys to check this visualization out as well once we finish off with this demonstration, and you guys can really get a better understanding as to how I did certain things within this dashboard. So with that, let's get started with our demo. So I understand that there may be a little bit of difficulties just because we're virtual and it's a virtual event, so it may be hard to kind of see what I'm doing. What I would recommend is you watch what I do, and then after you've watched what I've done, you try and do it yourself. I'll recreate every step a few times so that even if you miss it the first time, you can come back and I'll be doing that same step over and over. So hopefully we shouldn't have too many difficulties. But again, as I said, if you do run into any difficulties, then just let one of the team know and they will be able to help you out. So either raise your hand or drop a Q&A or chat. Cool, so hopefully everyone should be seeing a screen that looks a little like this. So all you need to do is just go into sheet 1. That may look slightly different for you because of all the tabs I have open. But if you go into the very first sheet that Tableau will have auto-generated for you, in the workbook, in the follow-along workbook, it should be pretty clear. There should just be a tab called bar chart. So if you click onto that, that will enable you to see what I'm looking at. So the very first thing that we actually want to do is just drag out our percent differences. So our percent differences should be on the left-hand side. You should be able to see it. If not, then you can use this search bar to find a field that you're looking for, so percent difference. So once you find percent difference, just drag and drop it onto rows. So again, for anyone that missed that, go back a step, find your percent differences field, and just drag and drop that onto rows. So right now what we're looking at is the average percent difference across all of our companies. So already we can see that we have a 13% difference between what men and women are paid across every company that has done this survey. So on average, men are being paid approximately 10% more than women. So one final time before we move on, if you just grab your percent differences and drag and drop it onto rows, you should see something that looks a little like this. So the next thing that we want to do is actually look at this in regards to different employers. So I want to see for my different employers, what does everything look like? So what I'm going to do for that is just drag and drop, you should have a field called current name, drag and drop that field called current name and place it onto columns. Now you'll get a warning sign that looks like this. Don't worry about it, just select the very first option and click Add All Members. And you'll get a visualization that looks like this. So if we go back a step, you'll see that I have a field called current name. Again, if you're having difficulty finding any fields, then just use that little search icon to use the search box to find the field that we're looking for. So let's take current name and drag and drop it onto columns. When we hit this warning, click on Add All Members. So right now what we have is a % difference for every single different employer that we have within this data set. So you can see that this goes on and on and on. We have a whole host of different employers, and we can now see the % difference for each and every one of those. Now what is obvious within this visualization though is that it's quite hard to see what each of these employers, who they are, because we have to tilt our head to be able to read this visualization. So what we actually need to do is just flip our rows and columns, and Tableau has a really easy button for that. So I'm going to highlight this so it's really clear, and I'll highlight it in red. So this is the button that we want to click. If we click this button, Tableau will flip our rows and columns around for us. So all we need to do is just click that button and Tableau will flip the rows and columns. So let's go ahead and do that. And you'll see now that it's far easier to read all of those different employers. So again, let's just click on this button here, and everything will be flipped around so that it's much easier to read each of the employers that we're looking at. Cool. So now what I want to do is actually sort this to see either the best and also the worst employers in terms of paying women. So first of all, let's see the worst employers. Let's name and shame those terrible employers that aren't paying women enough. So what I need to do, I can do this really easily in Tableau just by clicking this button here. So again, I'll highlight this. This is the button that we want to select. So if we just select this button, Tableau will automatically sort all of our different employers for us based on that % difference. And because we've sorted from highest to lowest, it means that we're looking at the worst employers at the very top and the best employers would be at the very bottom. So I'm just going to go ahead and select this button. And now we can see that T-Class Security Limited is our worst employer. It pays men 100% more than women. So we can see at the bottom there, 100% more than women, and that's probably because they don't employ any women in the first place, which is in itself not very good either. Now, some standouts that I think are quite interesting just by looking and browsing this myself. So first of all, Rush Hair Limited, the hairdresser Rush Hair Limited, I'm pretty sure they're a hairdresser. They pay men so much more than women. Equally, Ryanair Limited, again, paying women really poorly. So it goes to show that even big companies don't shy away from paying women worse than they pay men, and that's likely because in these companies there are more men in those positions of leadership. So if you're in a position of leadership, you're going to be paid more than the women who are maybe not leaders within their companies. So this is all pretty negative, but let's look at it from the opposite way around. So let's choose to sort from lowest to highest, so sorted ascending instead. And I will again highlight this. So now we want the middle button. And now if we click on this button, we will see the very best employers for women. So I'm going to go ahead and select this button here. And we can see that Realised Futures is great for women. It's paying women, let's see, 65% more than men. Again, Mars, pretty good. Mars Food is paying women 47% more than men. So these are all really good companies to work for as a woman. So now I think what may be really useful as well is if we actually saw the percent difference based on every single employer just in text next to it. So for that, we can just click this icon here to show our mark labels. So if we all select this icon, you'll be able to see that the percent difference for every employer will just be displayed next to the bar. So let's go ahead and select this icon, and you'll see all of those different percent differences now showing next to each and every employer so that we don't have to hover for the tooltip to see what we're looking at. Now, one thing that may actually be useful is if we had a filter on this view. So that means that I could search a company and my view would filter based on the search queries that I've placed. So what I can do for that is just go on to my current name, so that very same field that we used before. If we find that again on the left-hand side, if we click onto that, you will see an option for Show Filter. So you can either right-click or click on the arrow, and you should see an option for Show Filter. So once more, if we just find our current name attribute, again, if you can't find it, just use the search bar. If we now click into that current name, we can click Show Filter. We go ahead and do that. A filter will pop up on the right-hand side, and we can use that to filter based on the employer that we want. So you can choose your own employers, you can choose a really big company, see if you can find it. Just the only thing to bear in mind is that companies below the size of 250 employees are not required by law to present this data to the government. So if you can't find someone, an employer, that is probably why. So again, just for anyone that missed it, if we click onto this arrow here next to our current name attribute, we can go ahead and select Show Filter. So now what I can do is potentially, let's search for Ryanair again. So I'll go ahead and click Enter. We'll see Ryanair pop up there. I can go ahead and click that, and we'll be able to see that Ryanair now pays men 63% more than women. If I don't want to see the filter anymore, I can just untick, and we are left with the original view that we had. So again, if any questions, please do let one of the team know. But otherwise, let's now go on to the final part of this visualization that I really want to look at, and that's the average line. So let's go to the analytics pane. So right at the top here, you will see a data pane and an analytics pane. If we just click onto that analytics pane, we should see different options now showing for us. So what we will be familiar with is the data pane, and this is where we get most of our fields from. But this time, if we just select our analytics pane, go ahead and click on that, we can go ahead and take our average line and just drag and drop it onto table. So it should highlight when you've selected something. So if we select table, make sure that table has gone orange. But I want an average line for every single one of my companies. So I want this across the entire table. If I drop that, we can now see the average. We can see that that's at 13%, which is the very first insight that we found anyway. So again, just for anyone that missed it, if we go to the analytics pane, which will be just next to the data pane. If we select analytics instead, we can go ahead and take the average line and place it on the table and just let go, and the average line will be showing there for you. So now we have an average line, and I'm pretty happy with this visualization because it's telling me everything that I want to see. I've got all of my employers, I've got a filter if I want to just see a specific employer, and I can see that average line to see how men and women are compared in terms of their pay rate. Perfect. So this means that now we can move on to our next visualization. Now you guys should have at the bottom a sheet called Map. If you go ahead and select that map sheet, a new sheet should open up for you, and you can go ahead and continue your analysis. So you should just see something that looks like this. So if we are just going over that again, make sure to select your map tab, and you should have it on the bottom of your sheet workbook that you downloaded. Should be another sheet, so just select your map and you'll get a brand new sheet. And you may still be on the analytics pane, so just make sure you click back on the data pane. So if you're stuck on the analytics pane, all you need to do is just click on the data pane next to it again. So from here, what I want to do is actually find out in which areas men are better paid than women, or women are better paid than men. Is it something that is localized? Is it something that we can specifically pinpoint to a location? So in order to do that, I need to use my outcode field. I need to use a geographic field. So I've got an outcode field in my data set here. Again, if you can't find it, just use that search bar. So just type in outcode and you should be able to find it in your data. But we have this outcode attribute. And all I'm going to do is just literally double click on that outcode. And that will then be the map will then be automatically generated for me. So all we need to do once more is just literally double click on that outcode. And you should see something that looks like this. You may get another form of a map. You may get a field map, for example, but so long as you have a map with different points, you're on the right track. But as I said, I want to see in which areas men are paid better than women, or women are paid better than men. And this is a field that I don't have in my data currently. So I need to create a brand new field. I need to create a calculated field, really. So in order to do that, all I need to do is go next to that search icon, if we've been using that. There is a little drop-down arrow next to it. We select that, the little drop-down next to the search icon. The very first option will be Create Calculated Field. So if you just select that, you should get a box open up that looks like this. So again, for anyone that's keeping up, all you need to do is click on the little drop-down next to the search icon. Just click on this drop-down, and the very first option should be Create Calculated Field. If you go ahead and select that, you'll get a brand new pop-up so that you can create a calculated field. So what actually is a calculated field? Well, in Tableau, calculated fields are just logic statements, very similar to what you have in Excel. And you can have a whole host of different functionality and flexibility just by using calculated fields. Now, you may get a box that looks like this, or if you see this little arrow on the side here, you also may get a pop-up that extends the box. Now this grey box is a calculation helper tool. So if you search for a different calculation, if right now we're looking at absolute, Tableau will tell you how to use ABS as a function, an example of it, and it will explain to you what it does as well. So in the case of absolute, it tells me that if I want to use absolute, I need to do ABS and then put a number in the brackets, and it will return the absolute value of a given number, and it gives me that example too. So the absolute of -7 is, of course, 7. So with that in mind, if again you guys get stuck or you just want to understand what different parts of our calculation does, all you need to do is select that grey arrow to open up that calculation assistant. So your instructions should give you most of the information that you need to do for this. But all we want to do is create that calculated field of better paid sex so that we can work out in different areas which sex is the better paid. So all I'm going to do is name this better paid sex. And now I can just start writing my calculation. Now what you may want to do is just copy and paste the calculation that has been given for you, but if you want to write along with me, then all we need to do is type if, and what we can do is either type average percent difference, or we can just drag and drop our percent difference into our calculation window too. So if we just drag and drop percent difference, then it will pop up for us. But in this scenario, if we just type it, we can type average, and then we can type that percent difference, and we can say less than 0. So what we're trying to say is if an average percent difference for a company is less than 0, then that means women are better paid. Make sure you have your apostrophes. Otherwise, if it's better than 0, then men are better paid. And to ensure that your calculation is correct, Tableau will tell you that the calculation is valid, so you won't have any errors when you then go on to do your analysis. So again, if you're just having trouble with writing this calculation, then feel free to just copy and paste the calculation that I've typed in the help box below. But otherwise, if we want to write it one more time, you can just type in if, and it should come naturally. Then we can say average percent difference. If it's less than 0, then women, else men. So now that we know our calculation is valid, we can just go ahead and hit OK. Once we hit OK, we will see that that new calculation just show up on the left-hand side. So it should be highlighted, so you shouldn't lose it, hopefully. But again, if you do, just search for it at the top here. So now we have our better paid sex field that we just created. And what we want to do is add this to color so that we can actually understand what is going on, which outcodes are the best. So all I'm going to do is just drag and drop this onto the color marks card. So now Tableau will be looking at this better paid sex and coloring our different marks on our visualization based on this calculated field. So if we just drag and drop that to color on the marks card, you should get something that looks like this. Now it should automatically default to a filled map after you've done that, so you'll be able to see every area highlighted instead of little circles. But if not, then you can change it to a field map using Show Me at the top here. You'll see a field map, or you can do it from the marks card too. So again, just for anyone that missed it, we can go ahead and take our brand new calculated field, just drag and drop that onto color on the marks card. Now you'll know that you're dragging and dropping it onto color when you see that color little square actually become highlighted in that darker gray. So once you see that, feel free to drop your new calculated field and you should get something that looks a little like this. So we can see that men are coloured in blue and women are coloured in orange. Now, in my opinion, men in blue and women in orange doesn't look so good. So if we want to, we can actually go ahead and edit these colours too. So to edit these colours, all we need to do is go to that legend and there should be a little drop down icon here. If we select that drop down icon, the very first option should be edit colours. So if we go ahead and select edit colours, from here we can now alter the colours of our different men and women. So I'm happy with men being blue, but maybe I want women to be red instead. So if that's the case, I need to actually select women. You should see women actually become highlighted. I need to select women and then select the colour I want. So if it's red, if it's purple, if it's green, whatever it may be, just select the colour you want. And you should see that colour legend alter so that men are blue and now women are red, for example. And we can just go ahead and select OK. So now you'll see that updated in the map. So just once more, if anyone missed it, we select the drop down next to our colour legend, which should be showing on the right hand side. You should be able to just select that little drop down and the very first option will be edit colours. From here you can select the colour you want, the legend you want to alter. So if you want men to be light blue, for example, just select men, make sure it's highlighted so it's in that darker grey and just click OK. So I'll give you a few seconds to catch up with that. As I said before, if you guys are having any issues, then please just let one of us know. Cool. So if everyone is good with that, then we can move on to our final visualization. So now what I want to create is a box plot. So you should have an option for a box plot tab at the bottom of your worksheet. Just as you did for bar chart and map, you should have one for box plot too. So if you go ahead and select that box plot sheet, you should just be seeing a brand new Tableau worksheet that we've been used to. So if we want to create a box plot, we need to know what we want to create. So there's a few different ways that we can use Show Me, but one of those ways is actually just clicking onto Show Me. So just in the top right-hand corner, click onto Show Me. And you can hover over different visualizations to see what you need to create those. So if I know I want to create a box and whisker or a box plot, then Tableau will tell me that I need 0 or more dimensions and 1 or more measures. So I need to have those different fields to ensure that I can create a box and whisker plot or a box plot. So with that in mind, I'll just click off Show Me here. So if I want to go off Show Me, I just click back on that tab. With that in mind, I can now go ahead and start thinking about what I want my box plot to show. So we've looked at employers, specific employers, and we've looked at different locations, but something that we haven't touched upon is employer size. So I want to understand there's a relationship between employer size and whether they pay men or women better. So with knowing that, I'll go ahead and actually just double click on employer size. Now, when you double click, you should just be able to find this attribute. Again, if not, use the search bar. But if we double click employer size, you should get something that looks like this. Don't worry too much if you have something different. If you have something that just shows these employer sizes, then that's good enough. So all we need to have is employer size on the rows shelf there. So again, just find your employer size and either double click it or just drag and drop it to the rows shelf. So now we have our employer size. The next thing that we want to do is now we want to look at our employer sizes, but we want to understand this based on employer name. So we want to know for each of our different employers, how many of those reside within each of those different employer sizes. So all I'm going to do is just take my current name field, and I'm going to drag and drop it to detail actually. Now detail in the marks card is something that we haven't spoken about before. And you'll get that warning sign again. So we go ahead and add all members, don't worry about that. You'll get something that looks a little crazy, don't worry at all. If we go back to automatic as well, you may get something that looks kind of crazy, don't worry. What I'm trying to do when I drag my current name to detail is I'm trying to increase the level of granularity within my view so that when I do the next part of my analysis, I know that I'm looking at this based on the employer side, based on the current name of the different employers. So I know for sure that that is the level of granularity that I'm looking at, and that's the level of granularity that I want to have. So again, just for anyone that missed it, all I'm going to do is just take my current name and place it onto detail in the marks card. And again, you should see that highlight in grey. Once it does, just drop it there and go ahead and just select Add All Members. So now each of these little spots is actually, each of these little dots is actually a different employer. So you can see that even in your visualizations, however they may look, however crazy they may be, as you hover over the different points, you should see different employers. So as I said, I did want a box plot. So I need to now bring in that measure because Tableau told me I need one or more measures in order to create a box plot. So all I'm going to do is just take my percent difference, so what we've been working with this entire time, find that percent difference field again, and just drag and drop that onto columns. So again, just for anyone that missed it, take your percent difference and drag and drop that onto columns. Now again, don't worry if it looks a little different. Once we go ahead and actually create our box plot, everyone should look the same. So we have now our percent difference on column shelf, we have employer size on the row shelf, and then finally we have the current name of our employers on the details marks card. So once we have all of those different things, we can go ahead and use Show Me. So we can actually click onto Show Me in the top right-hand corner again, and you'll see that a box and whisker plot is now no longer grayed out, which means that we can actually create this visualization. We've met all of the criteria that Tableau has asked for. So again, just click into Show Me in the top right-hand corner, and go ahead and just select that box and whisker plot. So it should be in the exact same position as mine is, the second row from the bottom on the right-hand side. So if we go ahead and select that box and whisker plot, you'll see the visualization finally come to life. So now we have our box and whisker plot, but maybe it's looking a little small. We have all of this screen, but Tableau is only taking up a small portion of the screen. So in order to make sure that Tableau fills up the entire screen, what we need to do is actually just change the view that we're looking at. So at the top here, you'll see something that should say Standard. I'll highlight that again for you guys. So you should see a little option that says Standard. If you go ahead and click on that, you should see an option for Entire View. If we go ahead and select Entire View in that Options box, so this should be the very last one, our visualization will now take up the entire screen. So again, just in the top, we should see something that says Standard. It's an option so that you can alter the view of your visualizations. If we click onto that, we can change this from Standard to Entire View. So let's select that, and our visualization should now take up our entire screen. So what I'm going to do now is actually just format this so it looks a little nicer. What I'll do is actually take our employer size again. So the same field that we have been working with, take employer size, search for it if you need to, take employer size, just drag and drop that onto color in the marks card. So again, you should see that gray highlighted box, drag and drop that onto color. And now you should see about 6 different colors for each of those different employer sizes. Again, as before, you can go ahead and edit those colors if you so wish. I quite like these colors, so I won't do that, but in your visualizations, go ahead and edit the colors if you want. Just one more time, all I did was I took employer size, I found that attribute, and I dragged and dropped it onto color. So the very final thing I'm going to do for this visualization is actually just change the size of the points. So maybe they're looking a little large on your screen, maybe they're too small. How do we change the size of our points in Tableau? Well, that's really easy. All we need to do is actually just click on the size marks, on the size option in the marks card. If you click on that, you will get an option to alter the size of your points. So that's a little large, but you can go ahead and make them as small or as large as you like based on your personal preference. So to get that option, all you need to do is select that size option in the marks card. Just click onto that and you should get a little pop-up to help you alter the size of your points. Perfect. So now we have a fully fledged, beautiful looking box plot, and our color legends should also be present on the right hand side. We have our bar chart and map as well. But now we need to bring this all together. So how do we go ahead and do that? Well, we need to actually create a dashboard. So on the bottom, the very next option after box plot for you guys should be a dashboard. So your dashboards should be full screen. If they're not, go ahead and just alter the size of those dashboards from fixed size to automatic. But you should all have a dashboard that looks a little like this. So it should just be a blank screen and you should see drop sheets here. And it should just be titled dashboard. So if you go ahead and select that option, you will now be able to create a dashboard. So what we need to do is just drag and drop our sheets, as we have done with different fields. We need to just drag and drop our sheets onto our dashboard. So what I'm going to do actually is get my map. Now drag and drop that onto my dashboard, and it should take up the entire screen. That's what we're hoping for. That's completely normal. And we need also our bar chart. So go ahead, just drag and drop your bar chart. So you'll have these sheets on the left-hand side here. Under sheets, you can actually select one of these sheets. Just drag and drop that sheet to wherever you wish. So you'll see that Tableau shows these grey highlights of where it's going to drop that sheet. So I want mine side by side with my map. So I'll just go ahead and drag and drop that next to my map. Again, just for anyone that missed it, take your bar chart, just drag and drop that wherever you wish. So yours should look like this. And then finally, we want our box plot. So I'll go ahead and just drag and drop that box plot wherever I want. So I can put it next to the map, I can put it next to the bar chart. I'm actually going to put it below the bar chart so the map takes up most of the view, but we can still see the bar chart and the box plot. So I will just let go there. So now what we can do is just some general formatting. So for example, maybe I don't want my employer size legend, color legend. If I want to just remove that from my dashboard, all I need to do is select that legend, and I should see just a black box around this legend. And from here, I can actually just remove this from my dashboard. So go ahead and do that. The next thing that I want to do is, again, select one of these legends, and I think it's pretty obvious which one men and women are in my map, so I can just remove that from my dashboard. So now all you should have is current name on the right-hand side. Your dashboard is currently called just dashboard. You can go ahead and give that a name that makes more sense. So maybe UK gender pay gap dashboard. Go ahead and just type that in, press enter. So again, just to change the name of your sheets or dashboards, all you need to do is go down to the bottom where there's where the dashboard is, and just double click on that title and just name it whatever you wish. So you can go ahead and name that whatever you see best fits. I'm happy with the name UK Gender Pay Gap Dashboard, so I'll go ahead and hit enter, and that title should be showing on the bottom there. Now in order to show that title on our dashboard, all we need to do is just tick this checkbox here, so show dashboard title. So you should see it just on below objects, there should just be a show dashboard title option. Go ahead and select that checkbox, and you'll see that appear in your dashboard now. Now if you want to change fonts, you want to change the alignment, the size, whatever it may be of your text, you can just literally double click on your title and a new pop-up should appear. So just double click on that title and you'll be able to format your title, make it bold, put it in the middle, whatever you see best fit. Hit OK and you should see something that hopefully looks like how you formatted your dashboard. Also, we can alter the position of our current name filter. So maybe we want that to be not taking up so much real estate on our dashboard. So if we want to alter the position of something, all we need to do is hover over at the top of it. Once we select it, once we see that grey box, the little top tab there is there to help you move this item. So I can just move that up so it takes up the top space within my dashboard instead. But of course, you can just leave your filter there too. It's completely up to you. Now, the final thing we want to do is actually just get our sheets to talk to one another. So to do that, we need to do some filtering on our dashboard. Now, dashboard filtering in Tableau is really, really easy. All we need to do is actually select the sheet that we're hoping to filter. So in this case, I want to filter my map so that when I select one of these outcodes, both my bar chart and box plot filter to just reflect all of the companies within that outcode. So hopefully this will make more sense once we actually put the filtering in place. But all we need to do is select that sheet. Once we click anywhere within the sheet, we should see a black border appear around the sheet. And all we need to do is click this funnel option here. And if you hover over it, you should see a user's filter tooltip. So this is what we need to click on. Once you click on it, it will look like nothing's happened, but it should just be filled in. So we want to just use that funnel option there around that border to make sure that we're using the sheet as a filter. And once you've selected it, it should be filled in like mine is on the screen right now. So just one more time, all you need to do is click on that icon there. I'll highlight it in red for you guys. Hopefully you can see that. And it should just be filled in. Now what that means is that when I select an outcode, so whatever outcode that may be, the rest of our dashboard now filters. So now we can see that in this particular outcode that we've selected, there's 3 different companies. One of them is in the 250 to 499 bracket, one is in the 500 to 999 bracket, and the final one is up to 5,000 employees from 1,000 upwards. Now, if you wanted to go further, you could actually go ahead and put an outcode filter on this map as well. So just very similarly to how we did this current name filter, you could put an outcode filter on the map too, and we could filter by our home outcode as an example. So that is our dashboard complete. Hopefully you have something that resembles what you can see on screen, and hopefully once you select different outcodes, the rest of the dashboard should also filter too. But I wanted to leave some time for any Q&A that anyone had, because otherwise my demonstration is complete. So if you do have Q&A, this is the time to ask it.
Thanks a lot, Sara. While you take a sip of water, every time I see you drink water, you remind me to drink water. That's actually been really helpful.
Good.
If people want to drop their questions in the chat or the Q&A, I also think you can unmute yourself. I'm just trying to figure that out now, so you can actually ask your questions yourselves. Let me see if that's possible. But if not, go ahead and drop stuff in the Q&A. Give people a moment to do that.
Yeah, very quickly, I'm actually just going to go ahead and go into my map again. So I'll select my map that we've been working on, and I'll go ahead and put an outcode filter on this too. So similar to how we did before, we can just show that filter so that now I can search based on my outcode. So again, just find outcode on your map and select show filter. You should see your outcode display here. Once we go back to the dashboard that we've just created, in order to show that filter, all we need to do is go and select this More Options button here. And there's an option for filters. And I'm just going to go all the way down and select outcode. So that's gone on the bottom. I'm just going to drag and drop it right to the top again. And what I'm going to do is actually search my work outcode, so SE1, you can't see that right now. SE1, I'll go ahead and click enter, and the option should be there. And now we can see that dashboard also filter on the map. If we wanted to make sure that this applied to all of our different worksheets, then we could go ahead and select this filter, and under More Options, we could say Apply to Worksheets, and it should be on the option of all using this data source.
Cool. We had a question earlier. It was towards the beginning, but I'm going to ask it again because I answered it on chat, and I'm hoping maybe you can demo it. It was from Shrishti. I'm hoping I'm getting her name right. If you could show how you use a filter to show which companies pay men and women equally, so where the measure is 0. I'm putting you on the spot here, but I've answered it on chat, so I'm happy to help you demo it as well.
Yeah, no, so there's a few different ways we can do that. So if we want to see if on the occasion where there's these 2 different companies in this filtering option that we have equal pay, then what we could do is just create a brand new calculated field. So we could just literally create that brand new calculated field by doing as we did before. And I'm going to call this equal pay. And what I need to do for this is I need to know when the percent difference is 0. So I can actually use a Boolean for this. I can use a true and false statement because I can then just filter based on knowing if something's true or false. So in order to do that, all I need to do is just type in average percent difference and equate that to 0. Tableau will tell me that that calculation is valid, so I know that what I've done is hopefully correct. I can click OK. And now that equal pay, what I can do is I'll take off my outcode filter if I can. But I can just literally just drag and drop that equal pay onto my filter shelf. And I can select true here. Go ahead and click OK. And now we should see the occasion when a company is paying our men and women equally. So let me just take this outcode field off, just so it's clearer. Now we can see that these are all the companies that pay men and women equally. So these are the best of our society.
I guess just to add there, I don't know if the data source goes into decimal points, but it might even be worth making that condition like 1 to -1, just to include the ones that are kind of on the teetering on the edge as well.
Yes, that's true.
That's a good list of companies you've got there. There is a question here from, again, apologies if I get your name wrong, but I'm going to say Meha, who was asking about some of the map options, so the ability to pin the map as well as like zoom in and zoom out. I don't know if you can.
Hey, Archana, sorry, I think you just dropped out there. Could you repeat that?
Oh, sorry.
No
Yeah,
problem.
no worries. It's a question from Meha about the map, so
Yeah.
how you can like pin the map and remove the option to like zoom in and zoom out and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, pinning the map means that you can fix the map. So when we were looking at our UK gender pay gap dashboard, this is probably where the question comes from, because when I selected, when I had, I don't know why this filter is altered now, but when I had my multiple value drop down and I was only looking at, for example, let's say AB12, we saw that map just to zoom into that one particular spot, and we didn't really know where that was. So in order to fix the map, all we need to do is just literally press this pin button. So I'll go ahead and put all back again, and I can now go ahead and just fix the map. So this means that if I now select a different field, so AB21 now, we know that that's in Aberdeen, I'm assuming, up in Scotland, and we can see exactly where that is on the map. But if we wanted to zoom in, then we just need to take that pin off.
Perfect. I think that answers Meha's question. If not, I'm just going to give you the Tableau tip here that I know up on that toolbar as well, there's a bunch of map options and stuff as well that you can use. So have a quick Google of that as well. Yeah. I think that was it in terms of questions. I know a lot of people have had to dip off because dinner's now ready. So I might let others do that. Oh, there's two more questions, so I'm going to just cover those two, and then I think we'll end it there, just so everyone can get to dinner and also just wrap up their evenings.
Cool.
As I know we've all been sitting in front of computers all day. There's a question here about customizing the map using Mapbox. I don't know if you have an example you can show now, or if you just want to talk around where you can find those options.
I don't think I have an option to hand, just because I'd have to dig around in my files.
Yeah, I figured that might be the case because you need the login, but I know where you can find the options. So just to explain to Trishti, who asked the question, is up at the top there's map, and then if you go down to, I think it's background maps, if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've done this one, and then manage maps, I'm now guessing at this point. Yeah, then it's here where you can add a Mapbox map layer. So hopefully that covers your question. And then I'm not sure, Mel, if you're still on the line, if you want to add a little bit more context to your question about what, I think it's what the current box plot is actually showing, is my interpretation of that.
This employee.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at here is the distribution of the percent difference for each of our different employer sizes. So obviously we were a little short on time, so I couldn't give more explanation on this. But since we have the time now, I think it's a really good opportunity to just go into this in a little more detail. So what we can see here is that in, for example, the 250 to 499 employer size option, we have a really high distribution of different pays to men and women. So on the lower end of the scale, we can see that women are being paid pretty well all the way up for a whole host of different companies. But we can also see women are being paid pretty poorly as well. So it just goes to show where that distribution is and where maybe differences need to be made. So something that really sticks out to me is in the 20,000 or more category, so the biggest companies in the UK, it's near enough everyone pays men better than women. So you can actually see here, HSBC, really, really massive company, is paying men 46% more than women. So it just goes to show in which areas do we really need to focus our efforts on in making sure that men and women are being paid more equally. So I think my very first argument would be in the 20,000 or more category, since it's very, very unequal there.
Yeah, I guess it affects more people as well. If you solve the problem there, you affect 20,000 people versus where the distribution's a lot higher, it only maybe affects 100 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Another way to think about it.
In an ideal world, we'd actually want a pretty small distribution. So we want a distribution very localized around 0. And we can see that actually none of these medians fall within 0, which is, I'd say, pretty worrying. So none of even the lower and upper quartiles fall into that 0 bracket, and that's where we would really, in an ideal equal world, we'd want that upper quartile, lower quartile, and median to just reside around 0.
Cool. I think that's kind of our last question from the session, so I'm going to call it there. Thanks a lot, Sara, for presenting today and giving up part of your evening for all of us. We really appreciate that. For those of you that were kind of following along or missed a couple of steps, the session is being recorded. We're just going to double check that the recording captured everything okay, and we'll share that out afterwards. But if not as well, I'm sure you noticed that in the workbook itself, there are more detailed instructions there as well. If you are keen to learn a little bit more about Tableau, a little bit of kind of promo on our side is that we are offering our e-learning for 90 days. So if you Google Tableau e-learning, you can get access to that and kind of carry on your learning on more generic data sets. But I think that was it from me. I'm going to wrap up by just recapping our announcements while people kind of dial off, just to end the session. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm just going to steal.
Yep, I stopped sharing, so go ahead.
Okay. Cool. I think everyone should be able to see that. So I think the main announcements were just, let me pull them up, is head to LinkedIn and search for Data Plus Women, no spaces. It looks like this. It's a group that you can search for, but then once you request to join, we have to accept you, just to add a little step of vetting and make sure everyone's kind of legit before we add them in. So go ahead and find us on LinkedIn if you're not a Twitter person. I'm sure everyone here came through us through the splash page rather than the meetup group, but just make sure that you signed up here, usergroups.tableau.com/datapluswomenlondon for updates, as we'll be retiring our meetup soon. And then last but not least, again, if you're interested in speaking, we have a form. It will be included in our follow-up email as well. Make sure to sign up. Talks can be anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour-long session like this. We're completely flexible, especially now because we're virtual. We can do mini lunchtime sessions, or because most things are going to be virtual, we can do them at any time of the day, and it doesn't matter where you live as well. So if you've dialed in internationally as well, you think you have a good idea, then we can also help you find your local group as well. Or if we want to steal you to present it for ours, we can do that as well. But yeah, that was it from me and the gang. We'll be in touch. Hope everyone has a good evening, and take care and stay safe. Bye, everyone. I will keep an eye on the participant count.